Well, good afternoon, everyone. Today is Monday, June 30th, 2025. We're here this afternoon for a work session with Community Planning, Infrastructure, and Resources. I'm Kristen Stevens, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners. With me are my fellow commissioners, Commissioner John Cafalis and Commissioner Jody Shattuck McNally. At the end of the table, we have our County Manager, Lorenda Volker. And I will turn things over to Leslie Ellis, our Community Planning, Infrastructure, and Resources Director. And we have several items on today's agenda, and she'll walk us through those. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Leslie Ellis, Community Planning, Infrastructure, and Resources. And as you mentioned, we do have two items that we'll start with. The first one to give an update on the transportation funding work that we're currently doing and get direction from you on some options for language for a poll that's upcoming this month. And then while we also have Mark and Todd here, we thought it would be helpful to give you an update on work that's being done to notify subdivisions about road maintenance. We've had several different questions arising in different contexts around that lately, and it seemed like a good time for a reminder about how that process works. And then from there, we have a co-compliance request. Amy's here for that. And then our director update. So we'll start off with our transportation funding item. We're teed up for that, and everybody that you see up here at the table has participated in this conversation so far and helped with some of the language that you'll see. Let me just do some quick introductions. So to my right here, Brian David from Public Alignment Communications, Brian David Blakely, and has been working very closely with us on all the media information that we've put out, the web pages. He'll update on the communication that we've been doing and kind of the statistics, what we're seeing out there, and the very high level of engagement in the community around that. Bill, thank you. You all know Bill Rousseau from County Attorney's Office, who has helped to review the proposed new ballot options that we'd like to fold into the poll as we move forward. So that's been very helpful. And then Mark Peterson and Todd Jurgens, of course, who you know from engineering and road and bridge, respectively. So I want to just quickly breeze through some of the slides and update on what we're doing with this project. As you're well aware, we've had multiple conversations since the beginning of the year about our challenge around funding for our county system. And of course, safety, resiliency, efficiency, mobility, those are all very important goals around our system. I'm just flashing this up as a reminder to everybody about the magnitude of our system and the essential components of it as access for schools, workplaces, recreational areas, and so forth. We have had a strong financial record, but we've also been letting the community know that we only spend or only receive 75 cents a month for our transportation needs, and this is based on a typical $600,000 residential home. And so that's kind of after the taxes are divvied up for schools and the other needs and uses and other functions at the county. That's what goes to road and bridge ultimately. And we've seen the increased demand on our system that's created greater need for road safety, maintenance, and improvement projects. And we also just recently completed the transportation plan, and that's in draft form that's coming forward. And so that identifies a number of projects. We've seen our costs increase significantly in the last 5 years. And so in that transportation plan, the many projects, over 500 projects are identified. So what we've tried to make very clear and understandable to the community is that there's a choice going forward that we may need to either cut some of these projects going forward because of our funding deficit, or we may need to move in the direction of having a new sales tax. And what we've continued to talk about is the potential of a sales tax that is 15 cents on a $100 purchase. And that, of course, excludes groceries and other components of what people pay for in their taxes. That would generate approximately $15 million annually to cover these transportation needs. So that's all just some very quick background. We've been out in the community for the past couple of months, and we've received input from residents and stakeholders and done some presentations and been out at various events and groups. And so I want to, at this point, turn it over to Brian to give you some of the updates on kind of what we're hearing so far. And let me switch over to that really quickly. And then we'll pass it over to Brian.
Great, thank you. So when I was here last, I think we're covering a bit of the plan of what we were going to do. So
Any ideas?
as Leslie just mentioned, while she works with the technology, it was like, okay, we did that survey. We kind of that looked backwards a little bit, asking voters like, what did you like? What did you not like? What did you find understandable? What were you valuing the most? What might you decide? Okay, perhaps if this were included, maybe we'd be more supportive or less supportive. So since then, we have been creating a lot of the materials for this public awareness, basically, effort. So we started with the website. And so I'm going to take you through kind of a brief overview, but feel free to interrupt and ask questions, because obviously there's a lot that's in every one of these things. So I'm going to start by talking about some of the public awareness tactics that we were using. So everything from transit. By transit, we mean like in the city of Loveland, there were some brief ads that were on the or very obvious ads that were on the buses, right? That mostly is all just to kind of drive people to the website so that they can see and get informed, but at least they're more aware that, oh, investing in Larimer County means investing in the roads, meaning the safety and the mobility that's important to people. So same goes. So that was all. So anything you see on here, the rural radio, for example, like that's the best way to reach voters. One of the best ways to reach voters, most bang for the buck anyway, is rural radio. Streaming TV. So that's any kind of, because obviously people getting their TV all kinds of ways these days. A conquesting e-blast package. So that means if they were a subscriber to iHeartRadio, you sign up and you start to get like advertisements, because that's part of your deal with your subscriptions. You get that, and then if they're interested, they click on it, and then we know, oh, they're interested. So then they might get a follow-up email. So that's what we mean by conquesting e-blast. Addressable geofencing, right? This is like, okay, so we're making sure that we're in Larimer County, and not outside. Same with YouTube. If someone wants to watch whatever it is that they're going to watch on YouTube and they live within Larimer County, obviously you guys have all done it before too, I'm sure. And one of the ads that you might get is a very quick spot about Larimer County. And again, it always ends with learn more, right? Meta, Facebook, Instagram. So yeah. I think Commissioner Kafalis had asked about radio at one point, so I wanted to circle back on that. So it was KCOL, Kix AM, so it was a classic country and news talk, KISS FM, so pop, and then KFKA, news sports talk radio. So those are kind of the radio stations that we covered. The next this is like, just so you know when we were in the field with which tactics. Today's the last day. So what we did was we were just pretty intentional about, let's make sure that when people are seeing it, they're kind of seeing it lots of different places, because that kind of helps saturate the brain a little bit. Like, oh, okay, I've seen it again. Maybe it makes them more likely to actually follow up, because it feels like it's more important than a one-off. So it's a little bit intense, but it gives the most, again, kind of bang for your buck. So radio, stream, it's all the same things that I just went over, but that's kind of it. So now that we're finished with what we would say is that awareness campaign, nearly. So these numbers reflect all the data from the start date, which was the 19th of May, until the 22nd of June. These numbers lag, obviously, because we have to get it from our paid media buyer, who has to get it from the people that are actually Meta and everything else. So up to this point, up to the 22nd, over 2 million impressions, meaning that's how many people saw it. And we can only measure digital. Obviously, we don't know how many people saw that bus, how many people were listening exactly when that radio spot came on. So this is, underestimating, if anything, but it shows, because we know that people actually had eyeballs, because they were visibly, either watching YouTube or on the Google search, and it came up. The click-through rate is what CTR means, 0.97, that it meets or exceeds all industry standards. So it was very effective. People were interested. It's a little tough because like there's not a lot of governments that are out there saying, you know, pay attention to us, but this is just based on kind of their expertise across the board. So the cross-device display banner, that means just like it's across all devices, right? And it's a little banner that comes up and you've seen. So that was the one that happened in this case, garner the most views or whatever you want to call it. And then the website traffic, which is probably, I don't know, it's just as interesting to me because it's people that have actually like, okay, they've seen it and then they've either clicked on it or maybe they saw the bus or maybe it was at a presentation that you guys gave and they go, oh, Larimer County are like these palm cars, right? And so they actually either put it in the search engine or they type it in or they hit the QR code. So 21,000 unique visitors means 21,000 like individuals, right? Not repeats. 30,000 because then some people that once they're on there, they click through another page and another page. That's why there's 30,000 total page views. There were downloads, so you could download the survey, you could download the FAQ, or sorry, you could download the fact sheet. Those were the things that were downloaded the most: the fact sheet and the 500 list of projects. And then, yeah, so these are really good numbers compared to other efforts that we have engaged with, and especially given a short amount of time. So it shows that once people are made aware of it, they are interested to learn more, and then quite a few dig a little deeper, just as we would expect, right? Most are fairly low information voters, but there are quite a few that want to know a little bit more, like what are these 500 projects? Yeah,
I think Commissioner Cafalas has a question.
please.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Brian. And maybe you'll get into this, and maybe I should have waited, but I'm curious that according to the Coloradoan article that I read this morning, digital, it was an article about the public awareness campaign.
Okay.
I thought they said that on the website, as of June 26th, there had only been one comment. Can you help me understand what appears to be a contradiction?
So a comment would be someone actually going onto the website and either submitting a question, like logging on to submit a question.
And that's what I believe this comment was about.
So the comment, yeah. So one comment. I think that we've got like a few more, but so far there haven't been that many people that have actually gone on there and said, I have a question. I think we're up to like maybe 6 or 7 or something like that, which tends to be a little lower, but that doesn't mean, yeah, but that's not a contradiction because many people go to websites and not everybody submits a comment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was there. I mean, I don't know if we can pull up the website, but I can show you some of the examples of questions that people ask. So.
Commissioner Shannon McNally.
So I'll build off that was a question, because it does seem, well, first off, I keep seeing the Facebooking media stuff with the video starts playing and you know, not that I click on it because I'm trying not to add to it, just so it's more authentic, but I'm assuming that was a media ad buy that will probably go to the end of the month or something. I know how those ads go. So I'm curious about that. Will you still be collecting that? But then I did see some of these comments on it. It seems like they're very specific, like they talk about front range patcher rail or 73C or it seems like that is more driven by maybe issues because I think there's 5 of those that are 73C. So it feels like maybe those are community members that maybe talk to go make comments. So overall, I did see one that was a little more talking about, you know, widening some things and no public sidewalks, but it just seems like there's a lot of education possibilities here as well. Is that, I mean, it feels like the comments weren't really, they were more like what they wanted in their area or what they thought should happen in their area. So to me, that says, the campaign, and I know you're the expert, but to me that just kind of says, like we did with behavioral health, that you have to go to that community and find out what's most important to them and show us how this is going to potentially, if we do this, how this would help their neighborhood and not, you know, may not see the bigger picture. Would that be an accurate statement?
You know, I mean, it's not uncommon to have people comment about something specific in their neighborhood. I would say overall, it's probably a good sign that there haven't been as many comments as we've seen in other locations, because it probably means that the questions that they might have otherwise had have been answered. So people understand the need. We're always going to get some people that say, I don't know, things like, forget it, you know, or you have enough money or something like that. And you're always going to get people that say, how about this particular project? Or what about that? And we do our best by having the list of and it's linked to the overall transportation plan. But the individual projects are things that we will often see. And yeah, perhaps you're right. Maybe Leslie has something to add.
Yeah, I'll just briefly, I'll add too, we have updated the frequently asked questions now, and we'll keep doing that as we get specific questions from people, and those tend to be more broad and general. But we also have been invited to participate and go talk to different communities, like Estes has invited us and Windsor has invited us. So I think that gives us also a chance to really key on projects or needs that are very particular in those parts of the county as we go forward.
Thank you.
I think we'll keep going.
Okay. So this kind of shows I guess I would say the effectiveness of doing a public awareness effort, because before we're out in the public, before we're out, like say on Meta or on buses or on radio and stuff, that's obviously before May 19th. May 19th is the first day when we start spending money to make people aware of the website. And then we're at the tail end, right? So we hit it pretty intensely for the, almost 1 month, a little over a 1 month period. So this is just kind of just so you kind of see, this is the back end of what the website traffic looks like. And once it's done, people are aware of it. A lot of people have seen it. There's a lot of understanding of it. Now it's a question of kind of trying to maintain that, but there's obviously no dollars to continually put behind this. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of the website tracking numbers, and then this kind of shows like where those website referrals came from. So campaigns is like the catch-all for the paid. The direct is someone maybe saw the ad or saw something and then put in the actual URL, and then other websites or search engine is kind of the same thing. And social media, that's not the campaign paid social media. That's because someone was on a social media site and maybe someone just like posted it organically and they clicked on over there. So yeah, over 22,000 for the paid media, including 800 direct and search engine, which is really good. So the direct and search engine, that shows if 800 people took the time to do it, there's many more that are aware of it that didn't necessarily take the time to do it. So it just speaks to the importance of continuing to have those personal conversations, going to these invitations that Leslie just mentioned, and going there in person, commissioners, others from the county, is really helpful, because then people see, wow, taking a personal interest in this. This is real. It's not just a one-off, oh, what do you guys think? It's like, no, this is really important. And again, that's through the 27th. So all these numbers will be updated once we have the final, because we're in today, as Commissioner Shattuck-McNally mentioned. We're still on Meta for another couple for the rest of the day anyway. So kind of the next steps. So we wanted to make the big push, give people a chance to educate themselves a little bit, to understand what the issues are that you all have been facing for the last, at least couple of years, regarding how to work your budget and make sure that you're funding the safety projects and mobility projects that people say are important, but do they think it's important enough to support a sales tax? That's the question that'll be before you guys here later this summer. So our next step is to do a survey, one more survey. Okay, let's see how people are feeling now. A lot's changed since the last time we asked, and this is not a looking back, this is a looking forward type of survey. The last one was, why did you not? And these kinds of things. This is more, okay, if it were before you, knowing what you know, is this something that you might think that would be good for the Board of County Commissioners to put on the ballot for this November? It'll help you all decide. It'll be one more data point that you can factor into your decision later this summer on whether to place it on the ballot for this November. So we'll be back in late July or early August, I believe. We want to get in the field after the 4th of July. It'll be what you've seen before, ensuring that it's a survey of voters and not just like whoever feels like taking it, but so it's as accurate a universe as we can portray for what's likely to happen this November. And then you guys can kind of take a look at that. We'll also have all the numbers from the paid media campaign. You guys can decide, have any questions, and kind of make that determination, which I think leads into kind of the next step here.
Okay, so I'm gonna just back here. So yes, as Brian mentioned, microphone. As Brian mentioned, our intent is to go back out around the 14th of July, possibly a little bit sooner, to see how people are, how this information is resonating with people and what they're thinking about a possible item in the fall. And so we will plan to return back to you on August 4th with those results and some recommendation in terms of what we're seeing and what that might mean for the fall. That brings us to one of the items that we would like to include as part of the poll is some new ballot language potentially that would be a simplified version of what we carried forward in the fall of 2024. And so for this discussion, I've included at the dais copies of the ballot language from 2024, which is also up on the screen here. And it covered a lot of ground. I'll just point out really quickly, the first paragraph is mostly the language that we need to include for Tabor purposes, as is most of what you see in the last paragraph. So we made very few changes to that language, just some minor updates, and certainly Bill can help if we have questions or thoughts around that piece. What we really focused on was looking at the content of the ballot language in the center part here that talks about how we would potentially spend the money or what the purpose of that ballot item would be. And so what we did with two different options, just to have some discussion, is a version that you see first that simplifies what was in that 2024 language, but still keeps a bit more detail to it in terms of some of the purposes, and includes some broader language about the types of transportation system improvements and whatnot, and a bit more detail. And then an option that really pares it down even more to focus on just safety and mobility. And I think our preference and recommendation would probably be a much simpler version, and that's based on I think the results of that first poll and the conversations that we had, where we heard from the community that what really resonated the most was the idea of safety and mobility. We think that the way that this language is construed, that it would allow us to do all the things that were itemized in that broader list of bullets that we had in the ballot language. And if you remember, also, of course, we have a resolution that pairs up with this ballot language, and that explains much more detail. And we had an exhibit in the resolution that has the map of projects, and it talks about the applicability of the tax and how the proceeds are spent and whatnot. So there's a lot more detail that goes with that can accompany some ballot language. But what we wanted to bring to you today is these examples. I don't know that any of them are set in stone necessarily. We can adjust them. But what we would like to do is pull a preferred version into the ballot or into the polling so that we can see how it resonates with people as they're answering those questions. I'll add really quickly too, Tracy Hines isn't at the table with us, but we reached out to the sales tax office just to check and see what the level would be in that first year. And so she gave us that updated number, which increased just a little bit from the 17.2 to 17.4, as you can see there too. So does Bill, anybody else want to add anything about these options? I think at this point we would open it up to your questions and feedback.
Thank you, Leslie. Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thank you. That's a question I've been sitting on since I've kind of read through this a couple of times. For the draft language for the polling, that was my first thought until I saw this other slide, that sometimes how that is worded and what the first impression on what that was going for could really turn someone on or off. Mm-hmm. And of course, I have to remember, I see it, I'm like, oh, cool, but that's me. But then when I read this, and having worked on some successful ballot measures, I know also some people, I think this helps gives us that broad flexibility, but also I'm wondering, and I would love that professional expertise insights, when it gets kind of broad, some people get turned off because they feel like maybe it's an open check, blank check. And so where's that balance between being a little specific so they know where the money's going, even though we have all the projects on the website, right, which is good. When people are reading their ballot, they're maybe not being at the website. So what's that, is there a sweet spot there? That was my first reaction, was like, I would be like, wait a minute, that's pretty broad. So I'm just kind of thinking out loud, but that was my initial reaction. But I'm a anomaly not to be used for data, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and there is a sweet spot, and the question is, what is the sweet spot? It feels like, based on the past surveys that we've done, that the previous question was too detailed. It was too much, and for whatever reason, it was close. It wasn't like it was
Yeah.
soundly rejected by any means, right? It was really close, and there were so many other factors involved.
Yeah.
So we know we are making estimates here on what it feels like resonates the most with people based on conversations that we've had, surveys we've had. And it felt like from the feedback from the community that they just felt like this is just, it's too much. It's certainly in that. And then so we felt like, well, let's focus on the two things that people care about the most, which is safety and mobility, and keep it clear, keep it concise, straightforward. It feels like that's where people are at right now based on what we've heard. And that's the nice part about having this language now, is we can now test that. And we can see, okay, is this more in line with what you would like to see? And we'll see, what people think.
We toyed with the idea too of, do you note that there's a list of projects somewhere, and is that in the ballot language, and could that be referred? I suppose we could also ask the question in the poll, like, would you be more or less likely to support this if it included, like some reference to certain projects or something like that, just to gauge, is it enough detail or is it too broad or vague? So we could, ask a question along those lines potentially.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've certainly done that, especially someone who says no. So we can ask, if this were added, would that change your mind? And see if
Yeah.
that gets an additional however many. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're right, it depends if they said too much, but, before other ballot measures that went around, I had the big, huge master plan, and people liked knowing the budget. Now, there's a reserve account, that's great, now like this, and they felt like, okay, we know where the money's gonna be going, but, I see the details, but I'm wondering how we, I think people feel more comfortable if they know, hey, this is going to impact my neighborhood. I'm just thinking out loud, but I hear you, and I agree with you that this makes sense for all of us that are deep in their project, but trying to think about the everyday hardworking families who are the ones voting. What we need to say, hey, this is going to help you. What's going to be most attractive? So I'm glad we're polling on it, and
Yeah.
I'll be very interested to see, because times have changed. I think since 2016, the landscape for ballots and things keep changing, and it's evolving, and it's, especially with the rise of social media and Facebook and smartphones, it's a whole, it seems like every year it's a whole new universe, but maybe I'm just reacting to things.
No, we've certainly included, it's language like we were talking about, and we have talked about, like, should we add a bullet that says a specific list of projects is available, And it doesn't seem like that would, if it were as simple and straightforward as that would like turn anybody off. We're
Yeah.
just trying to keep it as simple as possible, but
Right.
that wouldn't harm anything, I don't think.
Thank you. I appreciate letting me kind of talk through that.
Yeah, yeah,
I find it fascinating. Thank you.
yeah.
Commissioner Claus, any questions or comments?
Thank you. Is there a way to see this version 2 and the version 1 side by side?
On the screen, no. I do have hard copies that if you wanted to place
It's on the
them,
other side.
right. And I do have some extras of those if you wanted to place them
No.
side by side.
Well,
Yes, the main difference is that the first one pulls forward the language from the 2024 ballot and keeps some of that intact. And then the last one is much more keyed in on the notion of safety and mobility. But we think that the way it's written, it's enough broadly encompassing that it allows us to do all the projects. So for instance, resilience isn't specifically mentioned, transit's not specifically mentioned, but our intention is that those are part of the suite of projects that are important and that we could still do them by the way that it's worded. So, and that would be the kind of thing that also in a parallel informational campaign certainly would be available for the public to see what kinds of projects have been identified.
thank you. Question, comment. So remind us again the methodology behind this final survey, and who is it targeting and how? My hope is that we would capture a broad array of demographics. It seems like older people might resonate with some of this, younger might not, and younger would. So how are we reaching a broad swath of
Yeah.
the folks who live in this county?
Yeah. Yeah, so we're partnering with Magellan again, and their approach will be this similar to in the past. So every registered voter in Larimer County that has a cell phone associated with their voter roll will receive a text asking them to participate in a county survey so they know it's a legitimate survey. And then we look at the back end to make sure that the actual number of responses matches what the likely turnout is for this November. So this November will obviously look very different from last November because it's an off-year election. So it will be trending older, be trending a little more educated. So we'll make sure that it reflects the numbers, and you'll see in the presentation in August, you'll see this is the number that was pulled. This is why we went with exactly, 300 Democratic women age, 20 to 35, because that's what's likely to be this November.
And what is your optimal sample size?
Over 2,000. Yeah, I'm sure they'll get over 2,000. I can't remember how many got in the first one, but yeah. So the margin of error will probably be like 1 to 2%.
So my comments,
Was it over 3?
Yeah, the first one we did.
my comments would be, well, number one, I need to give it a little more thought, but I think that my first reaction is maybe along the lines of what I think I heard from Commissioner Shattuck McNally, is that I agree we need to simplify it from 2024. It seems like between option 1 and 2, there needs to be a bit more, option 2 is not very specific, so I think maybe the sweet spot, maybe there's a sweet spot between these options and what we did in 2024. I will note that in option 1, you list motorists last, and in option 2, you list motorists first. And I would be willing to bet that we probably want to keep motorists first, even though some of us would prefer other means of transportation. So that's my reaction. Maybe some degree of specificity is something to consider. Although I realize, as I look at this thing, it seems like option 2 in the opening paragraph, shall taxes be increased, et cetera, it does get into a little bit for the purpose of repairs, construction, et cetera, whereas in option 1, it doesn't look like we get into that, but maybe you're trying to capture that in the two the two bullets. So I don't know what's more effective, what's more readable. Do we put that specificity in the bullet points or perhaps in that first paragraph, which I think is, anyway, that's, I don't know if that's helpful, but those are what come to mind. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, a little more specificity around the list of projects, certainly the repair, these are the kinds of things. What we're trying to do, just so you know, most voters, like, they start to read that first and their mind kind of goes, okay, here we go with the legal language, no idea. What is this about? Bullets. Okay, got it, great.
does-
And if a long list of bullets, their mind starts to glaze over, like, this looks like, which maybe happened a little bit last time. So that's the balance we're trying to do. So 3
Is it
bullets
better
max.
to put the little bit more specificity in that first paragraph or in, the bullet points as I think is demonstrated in option 1? Do you follow what I'm asking there?
Commissioner,
Yeah, we
You're
do. We
saying-
just didn't want to repeat the language in both bullets, so that's why it's up there.
You're suggesting maybe dropping the last part of that paragraph.
Well,
in-
I'm asking which is better, in terms
Ah.
of readability, to see a little bit more specificity in that first paragraph, or as is, I think, shows in option 1, that second bullet point is bigger, has more content, and I think what we've done is we've transferred some of the specificity from the first paragraph to that second bullet point. And I guess the question is that a better approach, more effective, more readability than perhaps including a little bit of specificity in that first paragraph and less in the bullet points, if that makes any
I
sense?
think the county
don't know.
manager has some comments on.
What's that?
Believe the county manager
And I'm
has some
done.
comments.
I'll stop.
to build on what the commissioner said, when I read the language at first, I was wondering why we might not make a third bullet above and starting with the word repair. So for the purposes of, and then a bullet that starts repairs, construction, maintenance, and improvement to the transportation system to achieve, and then the 2 other bullets. Because I think you're right. As I was looking at this, I missed that because I did what most voters do, which is what I skipped right down to the bullets. And so that is really the key, is that simplified language does describe what you have in great detail in option 1. So as I was looking at it, I was wondering if that is a possibility to word it in that way.
Yeah, I don't think that detracts at all. Yeah,
Feels short.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
I think what I was trying to say in the beginning, it almost swung too far. But I do think the first word that caught my attention was safer. So I think still that having that catches people's attention, I think still that's important. And then, and I agree with the county manager, kind of having that other, understanding that means that we're doing repair and maintenance, because I still think that, I agree with that comment, but I do think having those first words next to the bullet is what is kind of really key word choices. Safer and better, but that was the first thing when that popped up on the screen was safer. But then I was like, oh, it's short. That was my second one. So just my feedback. But like I said, we look and think about this stuff all the time, and I don't know what that looks like for, people that are, scanning through things quickly and trying to get through their ballots. So I'm sure the polling will help, but I wanted to just echo that as well. Thanks.
I'll just say succinct is good. So people know how transportation dollars are spent largely. It's not, and without giving them a list of everything that we're gonna do, because they can find that list if they want to. I feel like the second one is good. If we wanna make that intro to that first bullet point an extra bullet point instead of part of the text of the beginning paragraph. But people know what transportation dollars are for, in large part. So I don't think we need a great deal of specificity. Like I said, if they're very interested in the project, we're not going to have time or the space to list out projects. And barring that, I don't think we should get into more detail. They can find out. So I guarantee most people don't read through much more than the bullet points. So I guess we'll see what the polling says, and that'll help us make that decision.
Yeah, thank you all for that feedback. That's really helpful, and we'll take this. And I think the good news is that if we learn from the survey that, the language isn't quite right, we'll have an opportunity to adjust it further if we need to. So this was helpful feedback. Thank you. I'll just flash this up on the screen as a reminder for anybody watching that all this information is on investinlarimer.co, and that's the web pages that we were referencing earlier and all the materials and questions. So if anybody's watching and interested, that's where it can be found.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Leslie. Thank you, Brian.
All right, great.
All right, we
thank
look
you.
forward to hearing the results of the polling.
Yes.
And thank you for the information about the education piece. I think that it seems like it's been largely quite successful, and we've reached quite a few people. In fact, I had someone say to me the other day, "Oh, yeah, I heard that number about that." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, that's good."
Yeah.
Because that was somebody that I didn't,
Yeah,
I hadn't connected with before to give them that information, and they already had that, so
yeah.
great.
Good.
Yeah, so far, very positive feedback across the board. I mean, not 100%, obviously. Can't make everybody happy all the time.
Sure, sure.
But it's been really good. Yeah.
Wonderful,
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
Great.
All right.
We'll shift gears, and I know we're maybe a little past the time we thought we'd be now, so we'll just do a brief update on the subdivision notification. And Todd, who's kicking this off?
Yeah, do we want to maybe start with just kind of an overall reminder of where we're at with subdivisions? So Todd Juergens, Road and Bridge Director, and I know you all are aware of this, but just as a reminder, subdivisions developed prior to 1994 had the ability to petition the board for acceptance for maintenance. Some subdivisions were accepted, not all. The ones that are accepted for maintenance receive a very limited amount of maintenance, essentially fill a pothole, crack fill, chip seal, and that's really the extent of maintenance provided by the county. More robust maintenance operations, structural patching, overlays, certainly reconstruction, curb gutter, sidewalk, cross pans, aprons, that sort of infrastructure is not funded by Larimer County. That is work that's funded by property owners, or the responsibility to be funded by the property owners in the subdivision. Subdivisions that were developed after 1994 do not receive any level of county maintenance. They may be public, but they do not receive maintenance by the county. We've got some subdivisions in part of what you're hearing feedback on right now. We've got some subdivisions that are just reaching the end of their life. They may be 30, 40, 50, even 60 plus years old since they were originally constructed. And like everything, roads have an end of life, regardless of how well the routine preventative maintenance is done. They reach the end of their life. And so at that point, in a subdivision that had been accepted by the county for maintenance, we make a decision that chip seal and crack seal isn't a viable option moving forward. So we stop maintaining those subdivisions to that limited level that we provide, notify the subdivision that they will need to make more robust repairs to get the roads back in a maintainable condition, at which point then we will resume that limited level of maintenance that we had been providing. There's been some conversation about why have you stopped maintaining our subdivision, the subdivision next door's, 10 years older and you're still maintaining those. Again, just as a reminder, it's not a date trigger. It really is the condition of the road. And for lots of different reasons, original construction technique, drainage issues, levels of traffic. We do have some subdivisions that are older that are still receiving that surface maintenance by the county, sitting next to a subdivision that's a little bit younger, but for whatever reason, those roads have failed. And so that causes some consternation amongst property owners. And again, I know you're all aware of this, just kind of to set the groundwork of where we start with then the next piece of the notifications.
So I'll pick it up from there. Mark Peterson, county engineer. And so trying to address subdivision roads was a strategic objective in the last round. And engineering staff working with road and bridge staff, spent a fair amount of time looking at all the subdivision data we had out there. We started collecting condition data on paved subdivision roads back in 2011, I believe it was, and we've got periodic resurveys of those conditions in those subdivision roads to work from. We've then been in the process of trying to notify everybody of the condition of their road. So roads that were shifting from being able to receive county maintenance to no longer being eligible for it because their roads were going to require a more robust or more extensive rehabilitation or overlay effort, something that the county doesn't fund and support. Were notified that they were going to need to fund more extensive activities and bring their roads back to a maintainable condition. Then they would be eligible to have county maintenance reactivated on those roads. Other roadways that are non-county maintained are in the process of getting postcards, and I gave you examples of the 2 postcard language that's been used on the 2 different varieties of postcard. The one at the top is the postcards that went out to subdivisions that were previously getting county maintenance and were no longer going to be receiving that. And then the ones at the version at the bottom is going out to subdivisions that have never received county maintenance. Just again, trying to make them all aware that their roads are going to need something in the future, and the county does support them to the extent that they want to pursue a public improvement district. If they have public roads, we'll provide support to try to develop petition language and walk them through, develop a maintenance plan and a cost estimate for what it would take to address their needs, and move it forward to a hearing before you and an election if they so desire. So those postcards are going out in phases here because we try to be ready to respond to whoever comes back to us, so we're not going to shotgun out 2,000 postcards at once. But we've done prior mailings, and there will be progressive or additional mailings here next week and in August. So we're getting the word out to the subdivisions that have conditions that need further activity. There is a group of neighborhoods that will need to get information out that have really poor roads, and they're going to require a very expensive, and it's pretty much rehabilitation that has to be done on some of those roads. So the word will need to go out to those as well. We're focused on the ones that their condition is at a point where you could try to catch it before it falls off the edge and bring it up by potentially less costly means. So that's really what's going on in terms of notification, trying to get the word out to everybody.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you for bringing the postcards or the examples. I see a phone number there. Is there a person who mans that? How often? And if they can't get a hold of them, is there a message machine? How quickly do they return calls? Because as you know, I've been getting a lot of phone calls about these, and sometimes if you can talk to a person right away when you have questions, it makes a big difference. And I'm just wondering how much staff time or capacity when these go out is if you're mailing these out, do you have someone there maybe a little more time to pick up the phone?
And I have to apologize because I think when I cut and paste the wording in, because what I was taking was a postcard that was 2 postcards for the same audience. The bottom contact information for the postcard that goes out to subdivisions not receiving county maintenance is the engineering general number, and the website is PID number. The one that goes out to the ones that are getting county maintenance goes back to Road and Bridge, and that's the Road and Bridge general number. So we have, the Road and Bridge general number is answered by admin staff, and they'll see that it gets directed to somebody who can try to respond. And the same with the email, it goes to a number of people who get that email, and we try to make sure somebody responds. And we log, PID information requests and follow up with trying to contact them back or get back to them.
Thank you for that.
I don't know if I'm answering your question
Yeah, I just,
completely.
my concern is, because we'll get these too, so I can use those numbers and that email to send people to, I'm assuming. I'm sure you don't want all of them sent to you, because people have questions, they get concerned. This is a hot button topic. So I guess what I'm asking is, if and when these go out, are you kind of know when they hit the mailbox? Are you kind of anticipating being ready for the onslaught of phone numbers?
And that's why we're doing it in, we'll send it out to 10 or 12, 15 subdivisions at a time, maybe. Depends on kind of how many properties are in that. Because there are a total of over 200 subdivisions out there that we're trying to notify over time.
And those phone numbers are not someone, an individual's desk. They're our main number. That number is monitored and manned, during our business hours, 5 days a week. So somebody's going to answer the phone when you call that number. And then the email address is our RAB admin email. The same thing, we have staff, administrative staff that's monitoring that email all day, 5 days a week during business hours. And so we work really hard to get back with folks within a day or two. The person that answers the phone may not have all of the detailed pavement analysis information that person wants, but we'll get that call to our paved roads manager. And then again, we work really hard, and I think are really good at getting back to folks in a really short amount of time. We understand the quicker we answer those phone calls, the more chance we have of keeping them at our level and not having those things escalate. And so that's one of the things that I think we do really well at Road and Bridges, is stay on top of those phone calls and get them returned quickly. Maybe to answer your original question, they will speak with someone when they call that phone number. There will be a real person that answers the phone.
I appreciate that, and thank you to your and your staff, because usually those phone calls may not be as kind as maybe other phone calls would be. So I guess you're right. Was hoping they're talking to a human and not just a voicemail, which might escalate the frustration a little bit. So I appreciate your answers. Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions? No. All right. I think this seems like a great idea. Thank you for being proactive about this. We've, in land use hearings, in other spaces, we're sort of hearing about some of this. So I think this is great to get this information out, and people can do with it what they will.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
And let us know if you have any other questions. Todd, would you mind just saying what your main number is, since that number was the one that I think didn't get copied correctly, in case, is it?
Sorry, they got
Okay.
Engineering that didn't.
Oh, okay, so maybe say your number, and then that's good information for you as well. If you get questions from members of the public, that you can know what phone number to guide them to.
So the engineering main number that's not on there is 970-498-5700. And we have a general website for improvement districts. It's ENG-IMPDIST. And it's at co.larimer.co.us. So it's.
Yeah, thank you both.
Thank you. All right. Code compliance, request for legal action, and NOCO humane ordinance update.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Amy White, Code Compliance Supervisor. I'm here for two reasons today. One is to inform you that the third revised animal ordinance has been published for the requisite number of days, and it's now ready to come onto your consent agenda tomorrow. And just so the public knows, this was to prohibit roadside, including parking lot, flea market, the whole 9 yards of sales of animals due to concerns about lack of rabies and just animal safety in general. The second reason I'm here is to request approval to initiate a district court case. This is a property owner that we have dealt with for many, many years. Every time we go out, he'll come into the office and he'll say, what do I need to do? We'll let him know what he needs to do. When an inspector goes out to actually review what he's done, he's created a new violation, and we just keep going round and round and round. This is also a property that is right by Chimney Hollow, and there is a 60-foot unpermitted tower that is there that we have concerns about, as do the neighbors, as do other jurisdictions. So we would like to go to court to get an injunction to have him stop doing anything until he can get it done correctly. Any questions?
Both of these are on your agenda for tomorrow.
Yes, they're on the consent agenda tomorrow.
For letting us know. I think that.
Okay.
All right. That was, talk about succinct. Woohoo. All right. That was awesome. Thank you, Amy. All right, Community Development Director update.
Good afternoon, Rebecca Everett, Community Development Director. I just have one head of administrative type update for you. I think we have about a month until our next hearing, land use hearing, but in advance of that, I wanted to let you know about a change that will be coming in your packets that is hopefully a welcome change to help make it a little less confusing. Most of the items that you see before you at land use hearings go through Planning Commission first and get a Planning Commission recommendation, and the attachment numbering, I'm sure you have noticed, can be a little confusing with multiple things labeled as attachment A or attachment B or C. So we are revising the numbering and lettering system for attachments to make it clearer what was part of the Planning Commission packet and was an attachment there, and what is an attachment in your land use hearing packet. So moving forward, the attachments for the Board of County Commissioners and for your land use hearings will be attachments A, B, C, and so on, using letters, and the Planning Commission attachments will be attachments 1, 2, 3, and so on. So just wanted to make you aware of that very minor change, but hopefully it makes it easier to get through the packets.
Commissioner Qualis.
Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. Is it possible to, in the electronic version, to provide links to those attachments so we can go, if it's a 500-page document, we can go to page 253 for attachment A?
I'll check with the team to see if there are any barriers to doing that. I know that as more information gets added to the packets, addendums, things like that, it may not be possible to keep it fully up to date, but we can look and see if we can add in bookmarks to those pages to make it easier to navigate, because I think that would benefit everyone who's trying to navigate the packet.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything else? Do you have any questions? Okay, great. Thank you. So it looks like CPIR update.
Yeah, yes, I will be brief. First off, I think you all got notices yesterday afternoon about a fire at the landfill, and thankfully it was put out fairly quickly. We learned that it was a fire up on the face of the landfill in some rubbish, and it was probably likely a battery that caused it or some chemicals. And so Jeremy went in on his day off, Jeremy Groves, and then he actually got called back a few hours later, and so he spent quite a bit of time out there with our partners at the fire district. But it's just a good reminder to everybody to not dispose of batteries in the trash and make sure they go to household hazardous waste. And thankfully we have, of course, great partners at Poudre Fire District and others who help address those circumstances when they come up. But it was put out fairly quickly. So. And then I was also fortunate to do a ride along with Captain Fleming on Saturday out natural resources out around our natural areas. And next week, our natural resources team will be coming in to give you an update on the FLAP grant work that's happening out on the ground. So there's quite a bit out there. Thankfully, the public was fairly quiet and well behaved. Saturday was a good day after the bike race. And really always highlights for me just the great work that our team does in, making for a wonderful visitor experience and keeping people safe and making it welcoming for everybody to be out there. And I did get to witness, there was a motorcycle accident where thankfully the person who wrecked the motorcycle was okay and not seriously injured. But there also was a warrant for that particular person. So that was an example of all the partnerships that we have with with the fire district, with rangers and Colorado State Patrol and everybody who responds to incidents when they come up in the areas in the vicinity of the park. So our team just does such a nice job of coordinating and collaborating and again, keeping people safe as their primary objective. So that's all I have to report today.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks in both those scenarios. Really grateful to staff that work really hard weekends and nights to keep people safe in our community. And certainly thank you to the Poudre Fire Authority District for helping with the landfill, and just glad to have that reminder to not put batteries in the trash. Recycle batteries separately. Yeah. We had a great poster contest or magnet contest a while back for kids, and I don't know how we get that message out, but just know that it makes things unsafe for everyone involved when those batteries go in the trash and landfill. So. All right, I think that's it for today. Any questions for anyone? All right, 2:31, we're adjourned for the afternoon. Thank you.